Good afternoon to all. It is a privilege to speak in front of you today. Being a woman in the field of HSE, I think it is a privilege to be able to talk about the she in HSE. This presentation will be focusing on one of the major issues that we women struggle with in the workplace, the use of PPE. What are the associated challenges with PPE for women and how these are being addressed, and in some respect, how these are yet to be addressed? According to the international labor law, more than 40% of the global workforce are women. In many countries, workplace rules and regulations apply equally to all workers, but women are still not as well protected as their male counterparts. I remember working for an American company, and we had to revise our recruitment policy for one process to hire only males who are at least 5 feet 8 inches tall, because the machines we were initially importing did not fit women or even short men. And in my country, having to find men with that height is quite difficult. In another company, I had to make sure that I have already used the toilet before I go to one of our sites, because there are no ladies' toilet there. In the hierarchy of control, personal protective equipment is the last line of defense, but sometimes this is the only line of defense. However, PPEs are traditionally designed for men, which means that the female worker rely on PPE that are either too large or disproportionate. Also, women have unique features that are not considered in the design of this PPE. As a result, wearing PPE for women does not necessarily protect them from the work hazards. There are many challenges related to PPE use for women. I will concentrate on these 4 areas: poorly fitting PPEs for women, employers' lack of awareness on PPE, low number of women in the industry where PPE is required, and the lack of a full range of PPE designed for women. A survey was carried out in UK in 2016, and women were asked if their PPE were designed for them, and just 29% of the respondents said that their PPE that they wear is designed for women. And the lowest came from the energy sector, which is currently my sector, which is less than 10%. I am guessing this is quite significantly lower in this GCC region. In 1999, the US OSHA reported that in the construction industry, poor fitting PPE, or personal protection and clothing, did not function according to its design, which led to serious health and safety risk for women in the construction trades. Simply put, PPE cannot protect a woman from the hazards if it does not fit her. We know that men and women are the same, are basically different in many ways. Biologically, women are the childbearers. We have more estrogens. We tend to have more fats. Men have lean muscles. This can mean that our bodies react differently when exposed to chemicals or biological hazards. Physically, we're also different. Men are taller and heavier. And based on anthropometric studies, women have been proven to have smaller head and face circumference, shorter bodies, narrower shoulders, our hips are wider, our hands are smaller, and our feet are narrower and shorter. Therefore, women are not just the small size of men. Our body configurations are different from those of men. Hence, PPE designed for men may not fit women properly. These are just few examples of common issues women have to struggle with when we put on men's PPE. Instead of protecting us from the hazards of our activities, new hazards are introduced to us. In the span of my career, I have experienced most of this. The lack of employers' basic understanding on PPE designed for women poses the second area of concern. Many companies still believe in the one-size-fits-all, and either large or XL or whatever is the dominant size of their workers is being ordered. Safety managers and employers should not expect everybody in the company to wear the same thing. Women are less likely to wear the PPEs if these are uncomfortable or if it will add more potential for injury. Personally, before I was issued women's safety shoes because it was not yet available, I tried swapping some of my inspection sites with my colleagues to avoid covering large areas because my feet would hurt and would have blisters whenever I wore my heavy, unfitted safety shoes designed for men. Political correctness stems from the need to provide equal opportunity for everybody in the workforce. To ensure equality, employers issue unisex PPE in different sizes. However, we have already pointed out that PPEs designed for men and taking this product, initially designed for men, and reducing them to the size does not necessarily make them suitable for women. Another issue is that some employers associate pink with women. Personally, I hate pink. It does not necessarily follow that pink PPE is or has been designed for women, or that they are meeting the PPE standard of ANSI or EN standards. Also, not all women have the same sizes. A line of PPE designed for women does not automatically mean that it will fit a female worker properly. The employer and the wearer must evaluate the PPE to ensure that it fits properly and is comfortable to the wearer. The next challenge is the lack of women requiring PPE. In a study by EU OSHA in 2013, more than 60% of all employed women are concentrated in sectors such as healthcare, retail, and education. On the other hand, 78% of men are concentrated in jobs related to physical, mathematical, and engineering sciences. Statistically, high-risk industries are still very much male-dominated. As an example, only 7.8% of the global oil and gas workforce is female as of 2012. In the Middle East, the figure is only a dismal 3%. Although there has been a rise in the number of women in the workforce, there is still a relatively low number of women in high-risk industries such as mining, construction, and oil and gas worldwide. The US estimates that there are only 200,000 women working in the actual construction site and laborers in the construction industry. In some countries, such as Africa, for example, law has been passed for the inclusion of women in the mining industry. Their women's workforce has increased to 11%. The global average is only 5%. The lack of women in the workplace where PPE should be worn bears major issues such as the lack of women representation in HSE, and women are not part of the decision-making process. Women also experience ridicule, bullying, and even discrimination due to PPE use. Because they don't want to draw attention to themselves, they are sometimes either forced to or choose to make do and wear PPE designed for men. Modifying PPE to fit with rubber bands, duct tapes, staplers are still very common. Many women would buy their own PPE or modify what they get. The last challenge is the lack of a full range of PPE. Actually, many suppliers and manufacturers are seeing a market in women's PPE, thus they are now available. However, a full range of PPE, specially designed for women, are still to be improved, especially in relation to high-risk industry, mainly because the demand in the market is low. As already discussed in challenge number 3. Suppliers will not invest in PPEs if there is no one to buy them. One of the first PPEs that became widely available for women are the safety shoes. However, there is still limitation in specialized footwear such as women's logger boots or miner's boots. Another one is the head protection, thanks to the construction industry. Eye protection is also available. Ear plugs as well, and ear muffs are now popular. Respiratory protection. A study on how respirator fits different workers did not show any significance in the fit between men and women. Instead, it was found that the face length and the width are more important factors. This is one of the areas that still need improvement. Women's safety gloves are yet to become common, especially here in the region, in the GCC region. Oops. Fall protection is a specialized PPE that is currently very limited in terms of availability for women. According to a 2013 study, an improperly sized harness can hinder worker movement and affect the ability to work safely. It can also increase the worker's risk of suspension trauma after a fall, a potentially fatal condition. The researchers actually recommended investing in gender-specific harnesses with 3 sizes for each gender, rather than continue using 4 to 7 typically unisex models. Some manufacturers recommend crossover chest styles, such as that one, for women. Other challenges, such as PPE use during pregnancy and the use of PPE together with religious clothing, such as the hijab, are not discussed due to time constraint, but these are equally relevant and should be discussed in the future. How do we address these PPE challenges? Some of the recommendations I would like to point out are to have risk assessment. Risk assessment that include gender-sensitive issues is the basic tool to help companies understand the specific needs of women, be it facilities, welfare, administrative controls, and even personal protective equipment. More studies need to be conducted to know the effects of workplace exposure to women, as well as anthropometric studies on women, which should be the manufacturer's basis for PPE design. We should continue to look into regular review and amendment of the PPE standards. Recently, 2 ANSI standards on PPE were amended to accommodate body forms of smaller women. These are for the high visibility vest or safety apparels, as well as the hand protection. Regulators also play an important role in ensuring women are adequately protected in all aspects of the workplace. They can consider legislation or awareness that can help address the imbalance of men and women in high-risk industries. Women representation should also be empowered in safety and health committees so that they can voice out their concerns. Employers should strive to provide required PPE to the women who need it in their activities and engage women in the selection process. And speaking from a woman's point of view, we should be assertive as women. We should talk about our HSE needs to our employer, supervisor, and our health and safety representative. We should also be supportive of our female coworkers who are vocal about their PPE needs and report any hazards, including poorly fitting PPEs or the PPE that are damaged or worn. And if worse comes to worse, we have the right to refuse work if the PPE is dysfunctional. In conclusion, women are a key element of today's workforce. Rules and regulations must apply equally to all, so should protection. We know that women have to work and they should be protected from the hazards of their activities. Actions to address PPE challenges faced by women today still have a long way to go and is an important aspect of the SHE in HSE to ensure that they are being protected against the hazards of their work. With great collaboration from all relevant stakeholders, this can be resolved. And to all women who are working out there, we don't have to fit in. Rather, we should be fitted to our PPE. With that, thank you for your attention.